All right. With that, I feel very comfortable bringing the hugely talented artists behind Avatar: The Last Bender on stage, beginning with Arden Cho, who plays June. We have Elizabeth Yu, who plays Azula. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, who plays Uncle Iroh. Dallas Liu, who plays Zuko. Please welcome Ian Ousley, who plays Sokka. We have Kiawentiio, who plays Katara. Gordon Cormier, who plays Aang. Executive producer and director, Jabbar Raisani. And finally, showrunner, executive producer, and writer, Albert Kim. How you all doing? Good. Great. Yeah.
So great.
Celebration does not end, and I love it. All right, Albert and Jabbar, you're getting my first big, broad question here, because it's very obvious that this franchise has a massive fan base, but when you make a show like this, you want to be able to increase that fan base. So when you started working on it, what were some of the pillars you abided by to appease longtime Avatar fans, but also make sure your show served as an on-ramp?
Simple question.
I wanted to prepare you for everything to come right out the gate.
Well, it's tricky, obviously, when you're adapting something as beloved as Avatar. And to be honest, I was really intimidated at first. And it wasn't a clear choice for me to take on something like this. But I was a huge fan of the show. I loved the show. It was my daughter's favorite show growing up, and she introduced me to it, so I had very fond memories of it from the start. The pillars in terms of what we sort of the byword we had was authenticity, to making sure that we were both authentic to the original source material, meaning we weren't going to do a shot-for-shot remake. There was no way to do that. So we wanted to make sure that we were true to the spirit of the show, but also authentic in terms of both the cultural influences that inspired the original show, and that was a huge opportunity for the live-action version, being able to populate this version with an incredible cast like this, you know. I mean, honestly, that was just not an opportunity that anyone could pass up. And then being true to the story and the characters that we all fell in love with. So that's kind of the original impulse in adapting the show.
Jabbar, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just say, directorially, I was looking at the animated series a lot and really trying to get to the essence of what made the show feel like the show, and tonally trying to really nail that in an adaptation that couldn't be one-to-one, but trying to get the heart and soul of what it felt like to watch the animated series, which I was a huge fan of, and that was really what we strived to do, is make it feel like it was the same, even though it had to be totally different.
Because you brought up the cast, I'll ask you both a broad question about your cast. It is a big one. So I know that the casting process was really intense on this. You wanted to find the perfect actors for each role. So I know going into the show, that means you've got a great team here, but can you maybe give us a couple of examples of times on set when one of the actors you cast just blew your mind, made you think something like, I knew you were good, but I didn't even realize you were capable of that?
Hey, come on, man. Come on. Come on.
I knew.
I mean, they all had moments at certain points. And so it's hard to pinpoint anything. There are certain things that stand out to me. The scenes between Dallas and Paul were incredible, and all the way through the season were incredible. But I remember the scene for Liu Ten's funeral. Liu Ten's funeral, which was a scene that wasn't in the animated series, but we always knew we wanted to do for the live action, and that was just amazing to watch. It was the kind of thing where you looked around, and the crew were all crying as we were shooting that scene. Paul has this amazing talent to be able to do the single tear down his cheek.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does that, but he did it every take. It was incredible.
I have kids.
And then similarly, the scene that Dallas had in the sixth episode when after he loses the Agni Kai to his father and is banished was another scene that just was incredible to watch. So those are the ones that stand out to me. But again, every single one of them had something along those lines.
I feel like this whole panel could be answering that one
Absolutely.
question.
Yeah. Lizzie, I can think of one moment when Ousley burns that group of folks, and your face watching them burn. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so evil. I love that. That was really fun.
I'm going to dare to ask a question to the entire cast, so if anyone has an answer to this, feel free to jump in. But another actor was recently telling me that one of the best feelings on set is when you're first starting out and you're kind of still finding your footing, and then you have that scene where something just clicks, and you know with confidence that you've found your character. Did that happen to any of you, and if so, with what scene? Ooh.
Everybody answer this. Be careful. Episode 1, stick to episode 1.
None of us want to talk. I mean, I can answer. For me, it was watching the Agni Kai between Daniel and Dallas. That moment is Azula's like first appearance in the original series, where you see her kind of like enjoy seeing her brother in this awful moment. What was great and was really cool was that we got to kind of play around with it a little bit and see what our version of Azula and how she would react to a moment like that. And I love watching that scene, getting to see the two of them brawl it out. Yeah, that's probably mine. Anyone else?
It's a tough question. We block shot our episodes, so episode 1 and 2 were shot at the same time. But I think for me, being in a location like Kyoshi Village was really, really fun and really helped me connect with some of the more human elements of what we were trying to make Sokka into. So I think that all of the scenes with like Sokka really stumbling over, like trying to talk to Suki for the first time, that's the one that like clicks in my head. Yeah.
Good example.
The funeral scene obviously is the one that really comes to mind, and I was talking to Keely, who wrote that episode, and I thanked her for such a gift. Because up until then, you don't really see, I mean, we had a few scenes in and out, but I'm still trying to find who Iroh is for me. I'm a fan of the series too, love the character, he's an iconic character, big shoes to fill. And we had a couple of scenes together in a few of the other episodes, but it wasn't really until that episode that we really got a sense of the backbone of that relationship. And I know Dallas and I, we worked very, very hard at making sure that relationship was believable, that it was grounded. And I mean, he crushed it in that scene too, right? Like you don't get that reaction without the work he puts in. And that was a treat. Like for me, that's when I knew the dynamic between the two of us was gonna be okay. And then there's another scene later on at the end of the episode. It's fresh off the Agni Kai. Zuko's there with the scar. He's been banished or exiled, and Iroh shows up. And that scene for me as well is further cemented. I mean, that episode was a gift because in the animated series, you don't get that sense until book number 2. And so for that to drop in the middle of season 1 was such a lifeline for me as well, because it's, again, we want to do right by these characters, and that really helped, at least me, tremendously. I mean, Dallas is so much fun to work with, and he's just so talented, and it was just like, if that relationship doesn't work, then we're sunk, type thing, and he brought it. It was so much fun. Yeah.
I was going to volunteer something for Kiawentiio. I remember watching an episode that Jabbar directed when she has her scene with Jet, where she learns how to do the water whip. And that one, the challenge for Kiawentiio was in showing Katara's development over the course of the season. And so she has to go from someone who doesn't know quite what she's doing to becoming the master waterbender at the end. So like the scene we just saw in 108 when she takes on Zuko is obviously one of my favorite scenes. But to get there, she had to get to that scene in the third episode when she talks to Jet and bears the emotional trauma she's had in seeing her mom die. And I remember watching that scene when Jabbar was directing it on set and thinking, oh yeah, that's it. That's who she is right there. So like that to me also really stood out. I mean, you remember, I think you nailed almost all those takes from what I remember. I don't remember you having too much difficulty with that.
Yeah.
I would believe. Does anyone want to jump in on that one? I have many, many more if you don't.
I mean, I felt what you're saying too. I think I would agree. I think around that time is when I started to feel a lot more comfortable with her character and where her character was going. Yeah, I would agree, Albert.
Gordon, I'll come your way specifically now and kind of like zoom out a little bit because like, you're so young, you're headlining this like massive, hugely popular show, and that's a really big deal and something to celebrate. So over the course of making season 1, what are some of the lessons you learned about, what it means to be #1 on the call sheet and a leader on a set like this?
Leader.
You are.
Hearing that's just crazy. Leader. I'm so sorry. Well, I don't know. I feel like I've learned a lot of things that I can't quite bring to my head right now. But
I could say something.
is that a pretty good answer?
Gordon is just a super, super kind soul. And I think it makes it hard for him to answer that question, but it also is how he leads. He just is himself, and he's himself all the time, and it brings the crew together, it brings the cast together, it makes everybody comfortable, and it's just who he is.
Dude, this guy's so good at talking.
I think it's obvious that Gordon was really young. I remember, just a quick story, realizing how young Gordon was, because one day I got a call from the production office saying, they had an accident on set, and Gordon had lost a tooth. So I was like, oh my God, was there a fight? Was there a stunt accident? What happened? And it goes, no, one of his baby teeth fell out. And that's when I realized this huge multi-million-dollar Netflix project, the lead of that actually still had his baby teeth. And then a week later, another one fell out. So we actually had to get a denturist on staff to build him custom dentures that he wore. He was probably the only 12-year-old in the world who had to wear dentures every day to work. That was a line item in the budget that I didn't anticipate.
Understandably so, though, a difficult thing to wrap your head around now, but like everyone here knows and everyone out there knows, seriously. And there's gonna be a lot of good things to come for you. I definitely know that with certainty. Kiawentiio and Ian, I wanna come to you to talk a little bit about the brother-sister relationship, because whenever I see a relationship like that on screen, I'm always so impressed when actors can make sure the familial bond feels strong, but also still show that they're two completely different people. So can you talk about striking that connection with one another?
Yeah. You want to start?
I guess so. No, I love to hear that, because I think during the beginning, we had to work for that. We had to, we did some coaching lessons with our acting coach, Millie, to get that bond closer to where we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into detail.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, I think, yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of a funny thing. Boot camp was a very bonding experience, I think, for all 4 of us in general. But I think a big part of helping build that bond specifically was you were learning martial arts. We all 4 learned how to bend all 4 elements, which was funny. But getting to watch you learn how to do martial arts, and even getting to teach you some of that movements, or help along as much as we could. But yeah, we had days on set where it just really clicked with the like you're working together. It's a cool relationship that's not very. It's a unique situation because a lot of relationships are built face to face, but when you're doing a project like this, our relationship is being built shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
Like our hands are at work doing something, like trying to build something with each other. And there's a different kind of bond that comes with like, oh, we're all so individually passionate about making this like the absolute best project that we can, that it ends up just turning out that we ended up liking each other doing that, so.
What a nice answer. Because you brought up bending boot camp, I'll open this up to anyone who attended that. Can you tell me what bending technique or motion came most naturally to you? But then I also want to know the technique or motion that like would trip you up the most.
Yeah. Well, when I was learning, as Ian said, we learned all 4 of them. I quickly learned that water. Water was what I felt the most comfortable with, what I understood the most, and fire quite literally broke me. No, but fire was definitely more difficult for me to grasp the most.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. I was having a blast. I felt like the Avatar when we were in boot camp, honestly. Each one sort of felt really, really fun to do. I'd say air was the most difficult, which is what Gordon had to, deal with being a master at the very beginning of our series. But it's cool because, like, even throughout the series, you get to see him become more comfortable with, like, the fluidity of his arm movements and, how he plays being an airbending master. So I definitely took a few things from him there in training.
Yeah. I think that fire was like the most like Taekwondo as well, which is what I'm trained in. And the timing of earth was really weird because you had to like overextend and stuff. That's not any 4 of our like main elements. It's kind of funny. But I don't bend anything, so I was just happy to be there. I was like, oh, this is dope.
Gordon, how about for you?
I mean, like, air came pretty easily to me for some reason. I really struggled with fire, which I did not understand. I thought I was killing it. But my trainer had something else to say. Season 3, I'll be killing it. But yeah, air just came really naturally.
Yeah, you could see it in the finished product.
Thank you.
Paul and Dallas, I'll come to you now with a question because you were kind of talking about this before, but the connection between your characters is like a big piece of the heart in this show, just like really a next level connection there. Can you each tell me something about the other as a scene partner that you really appreciated and helped you access something in your own character that you wouldn't have been able to reach without him?
There is a pureness to Dallas, his heart, his spirit. That's what I really, really love about Dallas. He's so kind, and he's so talented, and he cares so much. He was so, and I love embarrassing him this way because he would never ever take credit for any of this stuff, and because he is just so pure and just so lovely in that way. He's got no ego. Humility is great. But I loved working because he's so pure. He cared so much. Yeah. It was, I mean, and that's the thing. And so it's easy to love him. And for him, it's like, who are you and get away from me type thing. Because I'm like, but you're my nephew.
Yeah. That uncle and nephew relationship was very real when we were shooting these scenes. I mean, Jabbar remembers, but during that block, I felt like I was struggling a lot during the scenes, and I would always, run to Paul and be like, dude, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, can you help me? And he'd help me run lines, do scenes, give me some ideas, and really just be like the perfect scene partner, even when he wasn't on camera. When he was, behind the camera, he was still giving me everything that he had as Uncle Iroh. I mean, he even had, like Albert talked about, that one teardrop that would just come down at will. But yeah, I honestly felt like, Paul is also just as, pure-hearted as Uncle Iroh. And I think that in those scenes, when I'm looking, at Uncle Iroh, I'm also looking at Paul as my own, because the way that he sort of took care of me through that process felt very much so like the way that he loves his own children. And so I felt taken care of during that time. And so I was really able to rely on him during, the scenes that I felt were most important in each episode.
Actually,
Beautiful answers.
Come on, Unc. I love you.
Lizzie, I'm going to come your way next with a somewhat similar question, but because the legendary Daniel Day Kim couldn't be here tonight, I do want to know a little bit about your experience working with him. Is there anything about what he did that, maybe helped you exceed your own expectations for your work in this role?
I mean, everything. He walks onto a set and you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? So it was very daunting getting to work with one of my idols, and so that kind of nervousness that Zuko and Azula feel towards their father was not at all. I didn't need any help in that area. But he's such a pro on set. I learned so much from him. This was like most of our first ever huge projects that we got to work on. So. He's just such a pro and a leader, and he just lives and breathes this industry. You could see it in every single second that he's on a set. So it was awesome getting to work with him. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're so nice and sweet. When I first met you, I'm like, you're really intimidating in this role. I'm going to come back to a very specific line of dialogue later that I need to ask you about towards the end of the season. Arden, I got a big two-part question, because playing a character like June, who's just so confident and spicy and a bounty hunter, it seems like such an exciting acting challenge to get to tackle. So the first part of the question is, when you got the role, what part of her or what quality of hers were you most looking forward to playing?
All of it. I remember reading the script and being like, wait, I think this is Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I also knew it, so I was like, it's all in code. And I remember thinking, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. It's something different. It's, she's kind of a villain, but a nice villain, sort of. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Are there nice villains? I just think all of it. I loved her I loved her attitude, which is she's just doing what she has to do to get by. And I don't think she does anything thinking that it's bad. But she's just so cool and confident. And I was like, oh, she's so cool. I want to be like her. But so all of it. But I remember feeling really intimidated by the role as well, especially when it's such a loved character and, you want to honor it, do it right. I remember when I first met Albert too and we're talking about it, I was like, how do I make sure to sound really tough and badass? Do you remember that conversation when we first met? And I was like, I don't know. Do you remember that?
Asking about whether you were badass?
No, the dialogue, I was like, I don't know if I feel cool saying it.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so silly out of context. But it was one of those things where once I was in costume, in hair and makeup, I was like, oh, I could do this. But then out of it, I'm like, no, there's no chance.
That could lean into the second part of my question nicely. So you were looking forward to all of that when you first got the role. What's something you found in her along the way that wound up being more creatively fulfilling than you ever could have imagined at the start?
Yeah, I think, honestly, as a female, I feel like we are quite often pressured on set to, look beautiful or look a certain way, and you're sort of always, even if your character is not supposed to be perfect head to toe, there's always this pressure as a woman. And I think what I really loved about June was she doesn't care. And I didn't care. I just sat there and was like, yes, make me June. Paint my face, tie me up in all her leather gear, and I was like, I'm ready, let's go. I didn't care if I jumped off the horse and there was mud on me, or not the horse, Nyla, but it was like a horse-ish thing.
The animatronic.
Yeah, in our world, right?
Yeah.
No, but right, it's I remember, jumping off, getting back on, jumping off. There was never, ever a moment that I thought, oh, I have dirt on me, I must get clean. No, it's just you're just in it. And I think that was so fun, and I was like, yes, I love this. I don't ever have to remember they tried to do last looks, and I'm like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, oh, sorry, yes, you do your job. I'm so sorry. But in my mind, like my character didn't care, and I loved that, and I felt very free.
That confidence and authority
Yeah.
leaps off screen so nicely. I love that.
Thank you.
Jabbar, I'm coming back your way now. So you directed episodes 2 and 3 of season 1. Of all of the
3 and 4.
3 and 4, which is actually what I had written and not what I said. 3 and 4 of all the scenes in those 2 episodes, which one did you think would be the most challenging to pull off? And ultimately, was it the toughest or a different one catch you by surprise?
Well, I think the whole Zuko Iroh storyline was certainly the emotional heart of that block, and probably the funeral scene was the one I was most concerned with because we had to nail it. But I had these 2 guys, and they did, and the tear came out, and I said, "Cut." You see it.
But you also had the Aang Zuko fight, which is the first time they fight in the Omashu marketplace.
Yep.
Which, was one of my favorite action sequences and one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there was a lot of action visual effects challenges, because of my background in visual effects and a lot of second unit. That part I wasn't as concerned with that. I was like, okay, I know how to do this, but that like really, really emotional through line was something that I knew I hadn't done as much of in my career, and I was like, it's gotta be right, otherwise I will be very unhappy and fans will be very unhappy, and so I think that was the most stressful.
Most impressive, most impressive. All right, I want to jump to the finale episode that everybody just watched. Albert, you've got my first question on that one. I specifically wanted to ask you about adapting the ocean spirit material. It's kind of similar to maybe the first question I started with, but can you tell me some things from the source material that you knew were important to uphold, but then also some things that you wanted to change to better suit the live action format?
Well, I knew I wanted to do the ocean spirit. I mean, it's funny that that wasn't necessarily an assumed thing. I got a lot of questions whether or not we were going to do it. And to me, that was the heart of the story. And it's one of the reasons also, going back to the first question about why I do this story now, is like I think our VFX technology has gotten to the point where we can do justice to something like that as opposed to even a few years ago. So like, knowing that we could do it and pull that off gave me a lot of confidence in being able to tell the entirety of that story. Because all of that, through the course of the season, we build to that moment. We're seeing Aang's journey. We're seeing him struggle with the idea of whether or not he fits into this world. We've seen him channel the spirit of another avatar. And so it all builds to this lesson that he learns. And in that moment, he thinks he's sacrificing himself to save this world. And everything is coming together. And that's when, he takes over, he beats back the firebenders, and then when the time comes for him to come back, Katara is the one who pulls him back emotionally. So we've built that to that moment all across the season because that's not something they were able to do, say, in the first episode, because they actually didn't know each other yet. But this bond that they've all built over the course of the season as a team is what allows that emotional connection to happen and pull Aang out of the creature that is the ocean spirit.
Oh, Ian, I'm going to jump to you next because that's a bond that gets to build all throughout season 1. You have one with Amber Midthunder in, I think it's only the last 2 episodes, and it has to come across as a very important relationship, and that's not a lot of time to build something like that. So what was it like working with her and getting to that point where you nail it so well?
Oh yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing, and she's an amazing person too, so it was really easy. I think that when you're acting with somebody, the most important thing I feel like is, there was a lot of talk at the beginning of our show about, the things that were behind the actors and the environments and the costumes, and all of those things are so important and make our show look the way that they do. But when you're acting, it's really just like me being Sokka and you being Yue, and I felt like we locked into that connection really easily. We had a lot of great conversations offset as well that were just friendly, and she's just an amazing person to be around, so that made it easier. But I think we were just really committed to the craft in that sense, especially with those. We have a lot of heavy dialogue exchanges, and we were both really excited to dive into every time we got to do that with each other.
We made a small change in the story just to help that moment. Like in our version of the story, Sokka encounters Yue as a fox in the spirit world in the 5th episode. And it's a very subtle thing, but it allowed us to build on something so that when Sokka first sees Yue, when they get to the Northern Water Tribe, he has a sense like, I know her from somewhere. And like, it stands in for that feeling that you get when you meet a special someone and you feel like you know them. You know, in our world, we made that a little bit more literal, and that allowed them to get a little bit ahead on their relationship before they got there. So it's not just like a pow, for love at first sight kind of thing. So it was one of those like tweaks we made that I think helped those character storylines a little bit.
The emotional heft there, spot on, I loved it. Kiawentiio, I'm coming back with that very specific line. It's one of my favorite exchanges in the whole season. It's obviously in the finale, and it's when Zuko says to her, "You found a master, haven't you?" And she replies, "Yes, you're looking at her." At that point in her journey, you can clap for that. At that point in her journey, what does saying that with confidence mean to her?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that fight alone is like super important for her character because she's stepping into it with all that confidence. Like, you have to go do this and I can do this. Like, I finally feel that I can do this, and like, just that confidence that, like you said, yeah, and by that point, like as an actor, I was understanding that more, and I could feel it, like from myself too, like with the a parallel between me and Katara. But yeah, I think having Dallas as my scene partner was such a huge help for that too, because with all the stunts that go along with that, that's not something that I have always done, you know? So doing those stunt scenes can be sometimes, like just give me anxiety and make me overthink sometimes. And Dallas is just so good at, you know, bringing me back down, especially bringing me back down to those lines that are super important to where we can get them down and I feel confident in the moment of, you know, that line, but yeah.
Yeah, the way Kiawentiio had sort of, yeah. I was going to say, the way that Kiawentiio had grown as an actress throughout the series really showed when she was not on camera. I remember her being like so excited about that one fight in particular, just because that was when you got to see the full growth of Katara, you know, and her confidence in her ability to waterbend and, you know, revisit this fight with Zuko, but come out of it on top.
Great beat right there. All right, Lizzie, the time has come.
Okay.
I don't know how heavily and how specifically you think of this, but your last lines of the season are such a big deal. Like, you say them, especially that last one, and then that title card hits, and it really needs to leave people dying for the next chapter, and you do it. So what was it like finding the right tone for those lines, especially when you say, what's next?
Oh gosh, well, I was when we got the script and knowing that I was gonna be like the last scene of the show, kind of, that was terrifying. But also, I feel like I had played around with this idea that, you know, this whole season she's in this like training academy. She's trying to, you know, prove to her dad that she is that perfect person for the heir to the throne and not Zuko. And this kind of moment is her first time out of the palace, doing what she says that she wants to do, trying to achieve her goals. And I think that was a huge moment for her, is just like, and I did it. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, and I proved it to you, took over Obashu, you know? So that's kind of, I feel like that's where that emotion was coming from, was that it was a huge moment for her. So it was so awesome finally getting to see the final product.
I love it. It's like the ending punch that this needed. Spot on. Gordon, I wasn't going to do this to anybody, but you seem too kind and humble, so it's one of my favorite questions to ask lately, and it makes people so uncomfortable. I feel like some people might know where this is going, because again, you're very good in this, and I think you need to know that. In this industry, people give each other awards. It's super cool. Nobody says good job to themselves nearly enough. I want you to tell me something you do in season 1 of Avatar that you know you'll be able to look back on and say, I'm so proud of myself for what I did there.
Aw. Okay. Give me a minute. I'm sorry. I mean, just the first time I did a crying scene, I was really scared, and even on the day, I was just really worried just how I performed, but it actually turned out okay, and I'm really proud of myself for actually like committing to it, because like it's difficult. Like there's like 100 people on set watching you. Like, I want to go home, just get the darn take. But yeah, I came through, and it was cool. I don't know.
This is very cool.
Thanks for that question.
All right. I swear I'm going to ask for some season 2 and 3 teases, but first we have some audience questions that I wanted to ask here. This first one comes from Paley Center member Aaron. For the producers and cast, did you feel a special responsibility embodying a show that is so special within the childhood of an entire generation? Who wants to take that one on?
Yeah, I mean, it is something that can weigh on you, but like it can also get crushing, so you gotta sort of put that aside at a certain point and just do the job. You gotta tell the best story that you can. It's something that you consider at the top of the project. I've told this story before, but like I said, my daughter was the one who turned me on to this show, and it was her favorite show, and when this opportunity came around, she was super excited that I was gonna be able to work on Avatar. My son was a little more protective of me. He was like, you know what you're facing here, right? You realize what you're doing here. And I was like, I said yes, but I didn't really know. So it's one of those things that you register it, you take it seriously, and then you have to like put it aside and just do the job. You have to do the best creative work that you can do. You have to work with the best collaborators you can get. You have to all come to work every day, committed to telling the stories that you want to tell as best as you can. And then that's as much as you can do. And then you can live with yourself after that.
Anyone want to add to that question? Got more. I told you.
That silence was loud.
This is from another Paley Center member. For the cast, given the Paley Center archives and preserves the best of television, are there particular shows or performers you have found inspiring within your own careers?
I have to speak to this. I'm Canadian, and this is all rather new to me. A lot of the way you celebrate your performers here is tremendous. I grew up watching television. That was my babysitter, my best friend. My parents were immigrants. They were always working. It was okay back then to leave your kids alone with the TV. That's how I learned how to speak English, actually. And growing up, I never knew I could be an actor because I never saw anybody who looked like me on the screens. And it wasn't until later on in my life that I became very aware of, oh my God, this could actually be a career of sorts. And very naively, I went into it thinking that I would be working like crazy, and I wasn't, because I was always sort of telling somebody else's narrative. And so this is so unique and so lovely because I never thought in my lifetime I would have this opportunity to be here in an historic theater. I mean, I was told the Oscar awards are given out here. Like this stage alone, this building alone has housed so much history. And so to be fortunate enough to have found work, to have found a family, to have worked with professionals at the top of their game, such crafted individuals, is for me like a dream come true. I feel like Cinderella at the ball. I am. And so to get back to your question about working with the heroes, Daniel Dae Kim and Ken Leung when I was a younger actor, and believe me, I had hair back then too. I love their work. And to be able to, like, I met Daniel, I did a play back in Toronto in 2012 called Kim's Convenience. They turned it into And that's when I first met Daniel, because he came up to Toronto to watch the play. And so I've been sort of friends with him since then, but I've never worked with him until this show. And then when I saw on the board that Ken had been cast as Admiral Zhao, I fell on the floor, because I named my son, my second born, after his character in Lost, Miles. Like, that's the work that I loved his work. So to be able to work with those two was like a dream come true again for me, because I had admired their work for so long. And then what I found was, working with all of these people on stage, I became huge fans of not only their work, but the way they carry themselves as human beings, the kindness, the passion, the excitement, all this. And I'm so happy for all of you, because for me, this is a life-altering thing. And to be here, I just feel like, ooh, I snuck in the back door riding on the backs of this immeasurable talent. So.
You're such an impassioned speaker. For anyone out there who has not watched his TED Talk, seriously, go home and watch it on YouTube after. It's a beautiful speech. Does anybody else want to answer that question?
I don't think it can get better than
That's fair enough. I'll throw a direct follow-up to you, Gordon, because I was watching another interview you had done where you said you were a big Adam Sandler fan and you want to do that kind of comedy. What's your favorite Adam Sandler movie?
There are so many to choose from. Oh, wow. Okay. You're getting me excited. Let me think. Oh, I gotta be careful. Wait. I mean, Billy Madison is a classic. I can't not mention that. Was that the right answer?
That's it. You got it.
That's the right answer in my book, for what that's worth.
Gordon once asked me on set, he goes, "What's your favorite Adam Sandler movie?" And the answer is all of them. And then he found out that I hadn't watched Uncut Gems at that point. And he just stopped, looked at me horrified, and says, "Go home right now and watch it. Go home right now." No, I'm not. I'm serious. Go. So that's how big a fan he is.
This is a good one.
Did you watch it?
I did. It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is one of the greatest films ever." It was great.
I have one more Paley Center member question here. This is from Josiah. For the actors newer to projects of this scale, how has the fame from being a part of this show affected your lives?
It's kind of funny. We went out to dinner with Albert and some of our producers from Ride Back and stuff the other day, and they kind of got to see it. We went to dessert, and it's cool. It's like there's so much appreciation from the fans. Like what a vulnerable social situation put yourself in. I've been in that spot too, like meeting people that I am huge fans of coming up and getting through that and just being like, "Oh, hi, like I loved your show and it meant a lot that you made it." Like that's been a crazy life-altering experience to get that at like the grocery store. You're like, "Oh, I need sweet potatoes," and someone's like, "I love the show so much, it's crazy." So that's been like a beautiful experience, and it's all from everyone who made the show possible, from Albert and Rideback and Jabbar and all the other directors, like the Goys, Michael Goy, I think, and his family is here tonight. So
shout out, Michael.
It's been really cool. It's been a crazy, weird experience, but really, really special.
Yeah, going back to that dinner we had with Albert and our Rideback team, it really felt like we were making our own parents proud, because they're the ones that sort of had parented us through that process of just supporting us, but also handling their own business on set. So it felt really nice to, I guess, receive the recognition for playing the characters, but a lot of the credit goes to those guys for handling those creative decisions for our characters.
Yeah.
every 5 minutes someone was coming up to take a picture, and at one point someone walked in and saw Ian and wasn't quite sure if they were right. And they're like staring at him, and he's like, no, I get that a lot, I get that a lot. And then Dallas turned around, and the person literally screamed. He goes, it's all of them.
Brace yourselves for so much more of that, and it's so well earned too. All right, here is my potential season 2 tease here. I feel like that was like yelling at me not to ask this question, whatever that crackle was, but I'm gonna do it anyway. For the cast, can you each tell me a quality your character gained in season 1 that you are especially excited to explore more in the future?
We'll go down the line.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Do you guys want to start with Arden?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Okay, wait, let me think.
Do.
Okay, Kiawentiio, I get it.
Go ahead.
So,
All right.
okay, yeah. Darn, I forgot. Kiawentiio, how about we start with you?
Sure. I mean, we were talking about it a bunch earlier. I think the new confidence that Katara has now going into second season and third is like super exciting. I mean, I'm hoping that we get to see more of that and just more of us together in general.
Yeah. I think for Sokka, I mean, he's just gone through this really kind of his first like catastrophic emotional situation with like a love interest, I guess. He's had that obviously with family, but I think that there's a lot that he's gonna have to work through that got brought to the surface emotionally. I think he's a very smart guy. The sugarfish. I think that he's a really smart guy in engineering, but on the like emotional intelligence side, he's got like some stuff to figure out. So I think that that's something that he's gonna have to bring into season 2.
I think in our show, you know, you really see how strong. I almost said Uncle Zuko.
Someone please make that, please.
I think you get to really see how close Uncle Iroh and Zuko really are compared to the animated series. And so I think carrying that over into the future seasons of our show, if you've watched the original, you know how big some of those moments are at the ending and the beginning of season 3. So I'm really stoked for, you know, Uncle and all of you know, Uncle Iroh and Zuko's moments in those seasons, because I think they'll hit that much harder because of what we built up in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
He stole my answer. So I'm gonna say prison bought Iroh. I'm gonna need help from you, Jabbar, with the CGI. That's all I'm saying.
My answer would probably be towards the end of season 1. I think Azula gains her freedom from the Fire Nation, and she's able to finally reign terror over the rest of the world. So I'm excited to finally be able to, you know, interact with some of anyone here on this panel. That'd be really great. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Nice. June is like a full-grown woman, so I don't know. She shows up when you need her, and then she's poof gone. So I don't know. There's not really much I can say to that. I think that's in the power of those with the pen.
Oh, we're here for it.
Oh, I think I got one.
Let's hear it.
Okay, in episode 1, we get to see Aang's relationship with Appa a little bit. And I feel like if we did get to dive into that more in season 2 and 3, that would be just so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be awesomeness. I ruined it.
Not at all. I'm here for that as well. All right, Albert, you're getting my last question because, as we all know, you are passing the show running reins over to Jabbar and Christine Boylan for seasons 2 and 3. Can you tell me something about the two of them that you saw while making season 1 that gives you the utmost confidence that these next 2 seasons are in the best possible hands?
I mean, Both of them were so involved in the first season, were so vital to making the season what it was. And so, I mean, I have utter confidence in what they're going to do. I know that Christine, who's out here today with a bunch of our writers who are all here, they're hard at work on the scripts for season 2. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do as much as anyone. So I'm very, very confident and happy of where the show, the hands that the show is in and where it's going to go.
Love to hear it. I believe it. I'm going to say thank you all for your time. It's been an honor to make my PaleyFest LA debut alongside all of you. You deserve all the success, continued success coming your way. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for coming out tonight and celebrating Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, thank you guys.
Thank you.